Chili here with Sirius Tellus Moon. I want to talk about Uranus in Taurus in the last day of Uranus in Taurus and the Uranus in Gemini in terms of the previous outer planet that's been in Taurus and in Gemini. And it goes like this. For Uranus in Taurus, the previous planet that's been there have been Pluto and Neptune, Standard Oil, and the predecessor in the 1870s. So for Gemini, this has also been Neptune and Pluto. I hope it's safe to say shout out to Light Sefa, who's been talking about uh, twin flame contracts dissolving. What? Yes? מצה בריין עם חביתה. זה בעצם עם חביתה. Abolish ritual abuse, denounce the Talmud, and eat matzah brine. It's basically, now here's remember the pitch I had for a business that would sell matzahs to the Arabic people because they love this more than the Jews. And you just squash, you just break it and cook it with eggs or the vegan equivalent, and then you have something alongside of between a bread. It's kind of like the bread pancake or bran toast. I don't know how to call it. Anyway, yeah. Now, I heard first about the term twin flame as tweede Flamme when I was taking a Dutch course at the Royal Dutch School, actually in Israel, in Ramat Aviv. And I heard it from a woman that married a Jewish Dutch man. So she said each and one of us had to give lecture in Dutch. I don't remember what I was talking about. I genuinely don't. And our teacher was Frisian. And this lady, she was giving lecture on tweede Flammen, on twin flames. And the lecture said that if twin flames meet each other at the wrong, like century or whatnot, then they will not get along at all. And if they meet each other at right time for them, then they will get along. And I guess you know what she was talking about because she was married to a Dutchman. Gemini is the twins. Uranus is liberation from. And so if I take it from what, for Uranus going through Taurus was liberating us from relations that are not really, it was both putting us in unusual relations that were revolutionizing what we thought about relationships, and also making sure that we don't stay in relationships that are not actually good for us. And this is where she talks about even twin flames dissolving. And I was thinking, like, twin flames sounds like a Neptune concept. And indeed, the last outer planet that was in Taurus, except for Sedna, which is an asteroid, the last outer planet was in Taurus, was Pluto and Neptune. And so when we had Uranus going through Taurus, we were liberating from Freudian perceptions. We were also liberating from the courtesan-cartesan division between capitalism, own something, be happy, but don't rape children, to communism, make sure that also everybody has, because essentially we both own something and own nothing. If I go, what is owning something? If I go out and nobody rapes anybody, the rain will drop, the chubezas will grow, the mellows will grow, the flowers will bloom, and I will have tea. I will have tea that, by the way, also prevents anomalies of cell growth, inflammation, and so on and so forth. It's not mine. We can have each person putting a fence around and saying their property, their mellow, their this, their that. Amazing. As long as nobody rapes anybody, it's not a problem. Now, we can decide that we also don't have a fence and share. As long as nobody rapes anybody, nobody will be excessively hungry. And nobody will be avoiding eating as well. So when we look at both communism and liberalism were the assemble of Standard Oil. Now, one could say that it was a human experiment to see what works best, the communist system or the liberal system. But this is bogus the minute that infants are raped. Both ways can work if nobody rapes anybody. If people are raped, nothing will work. Eventually, nothing will sustain. Now, Pluto and Neptune in Taurus were the building up of Standard Oil. To the Standard Oil that in 1911 will be dissolved because it was a big monopoly. Bringing us to the century of the sextile, building from the bisextile that we had upon the foundation of the aftermath of Israel and the foundation of NATO, into the current bisextile that is slowly bringing us to the dissolution of a century of Pluto-Neptune sextile. And if we consider the build up to the bisextile, where it was not yet perfecting, it's an entire century. Now, Uranus came to Aries. What did it liberate? Everything. There was the Me Too in Aries. What was Me Too? It was the buds of fighting against occultistic rape. The nature of sexual offenses doesn't allow testifying in court, and the public interest is taking precedence over the due process that we would normally have when it comes to sex offenses. That's Aries 23 degrees Aries squaring Pluto and opposing Spica, which is due process when it comes to jurisdiction and fairness in trade. I was among the people that were spreading the verdicts. That I thank Ronnie Sadovnik Kaloni for the verdicts, and I thank Moti that I later blocked because I wasn't sure he was trying to hit on me, so that was the reason I blocked. I was tortured and kidnapped, and I wasn't sure who is with who, so that was the only thing. And he was also looking into the epistemic of jurisdiction, and he talked about the principle of the soft skull, and I spoke the truth. And joining those principles, sharing that was the foundation for the Me Too. There were a lot of illegal charging of people for defamation, for people who spoke the truth in the Me Too. And I spoke the truth, and Soft Skull is supposed to be standing for them, and they're supposed to be eligible for compensation. Now, lack of access to due process will create a financial fallout, as happened in the subprime. For example, the fact that Mark Dutroux, that was complete perpetrator, wanted to name for the other people that basically were raping the children, those he kidnapped the children for, basically. And even Melissa's father, which was one of the girls that whose case exposed the truth seers, did not want to hear about the network. This is creating a complete and total and utter collapse and fallout that's very related to Standard Oil formation and dissolution. The Cold War and with the entire thing. Um, now, let's say if 1996 the Dodge did declassify the truth seers. Because that would already that would kind of impeach a person who was in The Hague and would be supporting, accusing U.S. in genocide in Kurdistan, then Dodge. But in any case, without abolishing rape of infants, we get nowhere. Including when Europe is trying to sovereign up to not just United States, but United States, USSR. I'm going to say it again. United States, USSR, because they're sovereign up in face of Standard Oil. And last time Standard Oil did USSR, but we're not going for another century of Gladio. And of course China, and the conglomerating Africa. 2027 is probably going to be a big year for Africa. They have a lot of eclipses there. It's a tension. It's going to be a tension. There's going to be a tension also in the respect of what is squaring up there. Just beginning to build a certain square there. I don't remember. Saturn, either Saturn, Pluto, or Saturn, Neptune. Or the buildup of the square of Uranus. It's not yet the square of Uranus, Neptune. But this, coming from the sextile, 2-3 years, it's not yet the square. I think it's Saturn, Neptune. Really? No, Saturn would always be Saturn, Pluto. Saturn, Pluto. The walking outer planet ephemeris. It's kind of like, okay, let's open AstroSeek. AstroSeek is closed. Doesn't matter. We're still recording an astrology episode. Open. Look at the sky. Sky is gesloten. Amazing. The sun is supposed to be here. By the way, when I was in between houses, that's about when there was an up point. I was walking in the street, barely in the internet, and then I was like, well, the moon is supposed to be going now through the point of the eclipses next to my Chiron, and this is the moment where I became homeless. I was like, oh, amazing. Where to from now? I don't know. But I was lying on the benches next to Sharuna Park with some blanket that I found and looking at the children play, the dogs play, and I was thinking of the concept of a home. But then I would need to be creating my inner child first. So not to be have Epstein and Maxwell. Maxwell G. No shame, no judgment in the sense that they were the victims before they were the perpetrators, but to discontinue that behavior in the lineage is amazing and blessed. Preferably without the Holocaust. Now, in Gemini as well, the last outer planets that we had were Neptune and Pluto. I know because Adolf Hitler had Pluto in Gemini, and we did not have Pluto in Gemini since he had Pluto around my Rahu. So fortunately, Adolf Hitler, in his own birth chart, dead, and Koffie? Geen koffie. Now, and yeah. For those who think that Benjamin Netanyahu is Adolf Hitler, actually the people who study clones say that it's not Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not going to further address it now. But again, even if person that was born by duplication, and Gemini is exactly that duplication, Uranus is going to liberate us from a lot of the issues surrounding the doubling, the cloning. And this is exactly what Light Sefa began to address, which is breaking down the entire doubling construct that was made to control. Because Pluto, if I think about Dr. Mengele times, the twin experiments of Dr. Mengele, I did not record the song with the Mengele twins. What was it? Birds do it, bees do it, even humble refugees do it. But yes, because I hope that Let's Make a World War is not a call to action. So no, but folks in Siam do it. Look at Mengele's twins. That was that was the rendition. And here's the thing: with Pluto and Gemini, the twinning was to control. And Neptune that preceded would be the medical, and Pluto would be the controlling of the duplicates. Now, of course, the doubling did not start with the recent Pluto and Gemini. I'm not going to go 9 millennia backwards, but that would be Sedna. כמעט אמרתי בבקשה, תודה מאמה. And I have Gemini also governs the distractions, and my mom made such a beautiful breakfast that I still want to eat warm. But the point is that Neptune was surrendering something around the duplicates. Pluto was creating doubles to control. Uranus liberates us from the control of Mengele. And this is where the notion that even the twins that are not ritually abused, that are not raped, they do not, and actually there was an experiment like that, and then they tried to exterminate the cloned person that was not ritually abused. And it tells us that even people who are cloned, they have a birthright. They're not slaves. There's no justification for slavery. And Saturn will bring the what they call the karma for the Mengele twins. It will bring restriction upon cloning and upon duplicating. Wait, I'm still recording. Uranus comes to liberate us from the use of twins, cloning and duplicating to control or to enslave. Because Uranus co-present with Saturn. Now here is the thing. When we look at the Arbeit macht frei at the camps, as terrible as it is, it was a satire of the working force of basically the Standard Oil era. Let's just say Standard Oil was so powerful, it should have prevented the death camps. Now, this satire was very cool, but this was how they generated the people that practiced usury to the point of enslaving and trafficking and raping people if they didn't have money, where the occultistic rape was the reason that they couldn't have money. Feynman here. And it also reminds us that our scientists and thinkers would also born with these conditions. Feynman was one of the greatest whistleblowers for upon the A-bomb and its effect on the teeth at Los Alamos. He died of cancer, but he also tackled the fact that there are doctors that make ailments that people won't be able to curate, and doctors that curate ailments that we didn't think could be curated. Abolition of occultistic rape of infants and not infants is the major key and component in curating ailments that we thought are incurable, physical and mental, which also are one. Now, and this is why, of course, with Uranus and Saturn, I'm not saying that we're going to see, it's all, a bed of roses, but it definitely will liberate us from notions of slavery to do with the cloning project, or with children, or with child labor. The fact that it's going through the Sedna Gate really is a telltale that the occultistic rape here is will bring devastation upon cities and twin cities. And we have to pay attention to Israel because for Israel it's in the 9th house, which means that what happens in Israel is globally affecting the world globally. And what's happening in the world, any civil war-like effects will be global, as per the state of Israel. And so yeah, this is also the dissolution of those systems that were twinning people to control. Okay, we have to think about it that Pluto is not Uranus. Just like Uranus is not Neptune. With Uranus, we had Uranus building up to the conjunction with Aries squaring Pluto, which was the Me Too. And as it was building up, we had the Arab Spring, we had resource economy, we had everything to understand. And then we had a decade of Uranus going through Taurus before Neptune embarking into Aries. It's kind of like people really had their chance to understand that the Me Too, namely Uranus-Aries conjunction, is not a passing phase, just like Copernicus wasn't, just like I am not. Because I understand that what I say here is challenging things that were of centuries. And what I say is very basic. It's don't rape. It's not like I'm. It's not. It doesn't even take that much of a genius. It's kind of like no rape. What the world without rape? What would it mean? Well, a lot of the challenges to the hidden causes of inflammation wouldn't be amazing. What would that do? Inflammation, inflation, hidden toxins, neurotoxins, everywhere around. What connects? With Saturn ruling over Pluto in the air, but underground as well, but also at sea, at oceans and land, with military strategies. Sovereignty of nations, sovereignty of countries. Like, so why do people rape? Because if they corrupt this, then they corrupt the entire world. I said, well, the last time they blamed somebody for corrupting the entire world. If they were that powerful, wouldn't they prevent that? Now, if all their power is in corruption, wouldn't that dissolve? I'm going having breakfast.